Hello everybody, my name is Benjamin Bloom and I have just witnessed Cardiff 1, Fulham 1, honours even, points shared in an interesting game which both teams will think that they actually could have come here and won, but everything changed on a mid-second half red card for Harry Arter. I think if that doesn't happen, Fulham looked like they were the favourites to go on and maybe get the winning goal. After that, a bit more of a case of Cardiff pushing forward and Fulham playing for that point in the end. So here is what happened. Cardiff line up with a 4-2-3-1. It's Smithies in goal, Peltier, Morrison, Flint, Bennett at the back four. You've got Bakuna and Rolls sitting in front of those guys. White right wing, Tomlin in the 10 position, Murphy left wing with Glatzel up front. First time I have seen him. At Fulham, standard, it's a 4-3-3. Bettinelli in goal, Sessegnon, Mawson, Ream, Bryan is the back four. Surprisingly, I got this one wrong. It was Harrison Reed who was the sitting midfielder, with Harry Arter a bit forward of him to the right and Tom Cairney a bit forward of him to the left. Still a tight midfield three though. Knockaert right, Cavaliero left, Mitrovic down the middle. And on 8 minutes, it's a pretty big chance and a little double flurry of chances as we start to see the pattern of the game unfold. Kenny gets it. He's on the right-hand side outside the box. Lovely little chip in, shapes it over. They've gone with the wide players, the defenders, which has left a gap for Joe Bryan to run into. He's in the box. He gets a touch on it. It just runs away a little bit and he ends up poking his shot just wide, pushed wide of the post by Smithies. Good opening very early on, and then on 10 minutes another one. Reed shot's blocked from the corner. The next phase up to Cavaliero left, smart ball across to Knockaert. He hits a shot initially which is blocked and it works right in his favour, comes back to him on the right foot and he slashes at it. He's in the box, not quite central, but normally we get better technique than that from Knockaert. Maybe he wanted that on his other foot. Two very presentable early openings for Fulham. Mawson gets robbed, a bit casual at the back. This would have been the game plan. This is what Blackburn tried to do last time I saw Fulham. He gets robbed in possession by White. It's into Tomlin in the box. His low cross is looking to pick out one of the third man runners, but Mawson himself actually gets back and covers that one. Cardiff has started to get further up the pitch and we get this huge kind of circus that I think you're going to see quite a lot on Fulham restarts this year. So you end up a lot of times on these goal kicks for Fulham with Bettinelli, the two centre-backs by his side, a row of Cardiff players all pushing up, man marking, a huge gap then in midfield, and then your row of three and your defenders. And a lot of the times Bettinelli was just chipping it into that big, huge hole. It was almost like Fulham wanted to make the pitch as big as possible, Cardiff trying to make it as small as possible, all trying to stop these Fulham attacks from inception, playing out from the back. And to a certain extent, that works. They didn't find too many ways of doing that. A couple of accurate kicks from Bettinelli. Certainly, as that Fulham back four gets disconnected from the sort of front four, obviously with the two deep midfielders dragged with it, got a bit disjointed, and obviously Fulham better as they managed to push their defence up. And that looked like Harrison Reed was, he was a fair few times I saw him trying to push the team up. That will be an improvement for Fulham as they go on, if they can play the same way but higher up the pitch with the centre halves, not necessarily pinging it about on the edge of their box. Big one down the middle though worked for them. Mitro, he's off his last man, flicks it on, easy one for Smithies to save there. 26 Cavaliero switching sides, going up to help Knockaert. They've double teamed Bennett this time. Nice exchange. They're standing off them as they're passing it between the two of them. Mitro, touch, low shot, gathered there by Smithies. You can see all the possession all the territory so far for Fulham. Sessegnon is starting to get forward more so than Brian. He's slipped in just offside there. We've seen this normally the other way round, where the you saw Norwich do this last year, where the right winger cups in and the fullback goes outside him. We saw Sessegnon actually coming inside of Knockaert a few times and finding a half space inside right. Good outlet when he was forward there. 34 lifted over the Fulham back four here. Cardiff going to come into it for the last 15 minutes of this half, 10 minutes should I say. Murphy is in behind, left side, crosses low. Bettinelli pats this out against White. It hits White and just drifts wide of the post. That could have easily dribbled into the goal. And now, just down this left-hand side with Josh Murphy, you start to see Cardiff have a good little period. 39. Kearney sneaks it off Tomlin. Intra Mitrovic well blocked here. Tomlin struggling in this first half. He's been told to press, but he wants to come back and get the ball to try and find it in the half space away from Harrison Reed. Seemed a little bit lost exactly where to pitch his position there, Lee Tomlin. Cavaliero following up in the next phase, hits that one high and wide. But you may say against the run of play, it is 0-0 at this point. But Cardiff are about to take the lead. I don't know what the possession stats were, but they didn't have much of it in the first half. On 42, Ream steps out of the Fulham defence. Doesn't exactly come charging out, but he certainly leaves Mawson on his own at centre-half, and that's going to be key in a second. He tries to play it into Cavaliero, and this is excellent play from Aidan Flint. He sees it coming. He's really tight to Cavaliero. He's stronger than him. He wins the ball, and then he steps forward. Now, remember that Ream stepped out in a kind of left centre-back position. That's left a huge hole. And to be fair to Flint, who's some would describe as a big lumbering centre-back, he plays it beautifully in behind into the left wing position for Murphy to run onto. So it's open. They've broken the press. Ream has left his position. Now Murphy is charging in behind. He's got a fair way to run. He moves into the box. It's a difficult angle for Murphy. Glatzel has made the good run in the middle, so maybe Bettinelli even has got half an eye on Glatzel in the middle. Murphy goes into the box. He hits the shot low. He gets his head over the ball. It gets a nice bounce, just skids up past Bettinelli. I do think he probably should have been saving this though. Skids up. He gets pretty much half a hand on it, and it spoons up into the back of the net, and Cardiff have the lead. We've got to praise Flint for stepping out and playing the ball. We've got to say Ream got caught out there. No one went back to cover him, although they want the centre-halves to be brave in possession. And then do we give Bettinelli a pass here? Is he expecting the cross and gets surprised by the shot, or should he be saving that? Either way round, it's 1-0 to Cardiff in a half really dominated by Fulham possession-wise. Possession is 9 terms to the law. Is it hell, says Neil Warnock. He's 1-0 up, and he should be 2-0 up, because literally the next attack, Cardiff have got the bit between their teeth. It's a big chance. It's threaded down the left again by Tomlin. Murphy and Glatzel both arriving on it. If one of them takes this, I think maybe there's a bit of a chance. Perhaps they get a little bit, in each other's way. I think it's Glatzel who takes the shot. It's blocked out. White has got the follow-up, and Arter throws himself at it, and it could be 2-0. And you'd think Fulham now are thinking, well, let's get to half-time 1-0. But, of course, football being football, Fulham are not going to score when they're on top. They're going to score when Cardiff are on top. And just before half-time, I think possibly might even been just pushing stoppage time, Fulham get the equaliser. Mitrovic is battering away up front. As he does, he sends it out wide to the right-hand side to Carvalho, on to Kearney, who's made that good run again, and Kearney's got quality. We saw Grealish do this 100 times for Villa last season. He goes into the box, and he just stops. And he says to the defender, all right, what are you going to do? If you dive in, I'm going to sidestep you and it's a penalty. If you dive in that way, I'm going to go round you. Don't step too far back because I'll cross it and you'll handball it. So the defender stands off. It's laid back to Cavaliero, who's on the angle on the right-hand side. This could be tame shot or a brilliant cross. Let's give him credit here, Cavalier, and say it's a good cross. He hits it. Does he miss-hit it? I don't know. I haven't seen it back on the TV. It rolls across the box. The defending's poor here because you've got one of the leading strikers, if not the best striker in the division, in the box. They do not react. There's a left back on the cover. That would be Bennett. I think Morrison is with Mitrovic. They both leave the big guy, and he has got the easiest tap-in from about 3 yards. And it is 1-1. One absolutely fascinating first half. Complete clash of styles. Cardiff don't need the ball. They've proven they've got promoted without having the ball under Neil Warnock here, so they won't be bothered about that. Fulham had all of the ball. That little flurry first 10 minutes could have taken the lead. Cardiff don't come into it at all until 35 minutes, and then they really could have been 2-0 up. After Murphy scores, there's that big chance, and then they just fall asleep right at the end of the half. Warnock, maybe he would have found it fortuitous that they would have been 1-0 up, but he wouldn't have expected them to then immediately concede. So Warnock probably a bit disappointed there at half-time. And Parker would have been disappointed as well. Weird game because for all their possession, they didn't take the chances. But that one just before half-time. Really interesting, kind of all over the place clash of styles. 48, Fulham pick up where they left off. Knockout, Sessegnon stood up to the back stick. Mitrovic chests it down. They stand off a little bit. The big guy deflects side netting here. Fulham, huge period of possession. It looks like now Cardiff are going to stand off and they're only going to press the last 40 yards. So some of the Cardiff fans were aiming some ire at the Fulham guys, saying it was boring, but this was clearly Cardiff standing off 10 yards further back as we come up to the hour mark. Reed still finds that direct ball into Mitrovic, though, off to Arta, driven wide, 25 yards. Right, we're now going to get a big flurry of activity, which is going to change the game. First of all, Patterson comes in for Tomlin, which makes all the sense in the world. Tomlin couldn't quite find his possession, wasn't pulling any strings at number 10. Patterson, a little bit more reliable in terms of positioning and an out ball aerially for Cardiff, who it wasn't sticking with Glatzel. I'll talk about him at the end. Be interested to know Cardiff's fans' thoughts on Glatzel as opposed to Zahor, who they sold, in the comments. Hoylett also comes in for White, who I thought was actually quite good in the first half, but we know Hoylett's got quality, certainly, in this division. So Murphy goes off to the right, Hoylett left, Patterson 10, Glatzel still up top. 65, Rowles. Lovely take here by Joe Rowles. Brought down by Harry Arter. Yellow card. Hold that thought. Free kick lobbed into the box. That then goes out for a throw-in. Sean Morrison comes over, drives the ball, normal routine, throws the ball in, and it's cleared. And in the main, they dealt well with the set plays, Fulham. Comes out to Morrison, who actually, very much like Flint for the first goal, does really, really well. Sidesteps his man, and then from somewhere in his back pocket, pulls out a nutmeg. So he's taken on two guys, Morrison. He's in a right-wing position. Now, my memory of this is that Arter then possibly either nicks it away or goes 50-50 and is expecting Morrison to challenge him. Morrison doesn't. Arter takes a dive. It would normally be one of those, oh, you're very professional centre midfield covering back, winning a free kick, easing pressure. Remember, he's been booked literally 2 phases of play ago. Morrison's done him here because he doesn't tackle him, I don't think. Let me know if I've got that wrong if you're watching on Sky Sports. And it seemed to be a clear dive. They go over and have a word with the ref goes and have a word with the linesman, and Arter has got himself sent off. Very, very, very silly. I'll need to watch that back. But in that moment, that was not what was required. And Morrison a bit wily there, and good play. So now all of a sudden, you've got Fulham, the possession machine, against up and at 'em Cardiff, and it's 10 versus 11. So the pendulum has now just swung massively, you would say, in Cardiff's favour. Johansson comes in for Knockout, and I think the idea is a 4-3-2 from Scott Parker, and Cavaliero, when they don't have the ball, is going to drop in. It's going to be like 1, and Mitrovic is just going to try and stay up front and batter away on his own. Yellow for Bettinelli. I don't know whether that was big mouth or time waste in there. Rules forward, left-footed from distance wide. 75. It's all getting a bit spicy now. Flint down in the box from a long throw. Nothing doing there. And you can see the game has totally changed now. Fulham very much on the back foot for the remainder. Bakuna takes a yellow on Johansson, breaking out of midfield. Kamara comes in for Cavaliero. I guess the idea, Cavaliero is naturally a wide player. Kamara, fresh legs, and he can get a bit closer to Mitrovic in a kind of more central position. Mendes-Lang comes in, bit of pace to swap for Murphy. Down the right wing, Mendes-Lang's going to play. 82, Hoylett crosses left to right here. Mendes-Lang keeps it alive. Better cross from him. Glatzel steers the header. He's under some pressure and he steers that one wide. 84, Sessegnon gets down the right. He crosses this in. Don't know if this is blindside of the ref. Peltier and Mitrovic both go down in a heap. You tell me who pulled down who there, but Mitrovic wasn't happy with it. You can imagine. Mawson takes the yellow again. I don't know if this is time wasting or back chat. We will find out. 87. This is the chance to win it for Cardiff. And of all the ways you think Cardiff would score, this would be it. And it doesn't happen. Morrison, long throw from the right. Now, I'm sitting behind him, so I get a really good view of this. It's cleared out to Hoylett on the left, and Morrison does exactly the right thing. Remember, it's 10 versus 11. Morrison runs from the byline where he's taken the throw in, goes to the back post and just lurks, and he's unmarked. And all of us in this stand, that Cardiff stand behind the other side to Hoylett, can see Morrison's free. Hoylett does exactly the right thing, hangs it up to the back post. Morrison gives the shout. It's a bit of a loopy cross. Morrison heads it. He's probably in the 6-yard box. It's a massive chance, and he just drifts it round past the far post. Of all the guys you want that to fall to, it would be Sean Morrison, but he puts it wide, and that was the big chance for Cardiff to win the game. Who would have thought Fulham would be hanging on here on 60 minutes? Well, they are. 88, Lamarchin comes in for Kearney. Kearney takes his sweet time, takes the armband off, strolls off, gets another yellow card. That one was definitely for time wasting. So Lamarchin comes in, back three, wing backs, basically just get as many men behind the ball. Reed and Johansson are going to sit still in front of it's basically a 5-2-2 for the rest of the game, but it's a rearguard action. Now, 6 minutes stoppage time, but Fulham, as they did for most of the game, deal well enough with the direct balls in. And the game ends 1-1. Really, really interesting match. As I say, the first half, I had exactly the same thing at Derby West Brom last week. The first half could have been 2-0 Cardiff, ends up 1-1. And you have this weird thing where both managers will go in thinking they should have been in the lead at half-time. Very, very fine margins in the Championship. We go into the second half. The game has settled into Fulham having all of the possession. Cardiff are not pressing the back four anymore. It looked like it was there for the taking for Fulham, that they would chip away. Cardiff would play on the break. Remember, they had pacey subs at this point. And then Arter, just with the crazy 2 minutes, which completely changed everything. Fulham then required to defend really for the last 22 minutes or so of the game. And the chance did come for Cardiff, but Sean Morrison heads it wide with about 3 minutes to go. And I guess both managers would have thought that they could have won it. Parker will think, oh, Fulham should have won if it weren't for the red card. Warnock will think, well, taking into account the red card and the Morrison chance, Cardiff should have won. But then, I hope I'm not contradicting myself, I think both managers would have thought they could have won it. So then both will probably be happy not to lose it and be happy with the point. You would say Scott Parker will be a bit more happy than Neil Warnock on the basis Fulham are away, Cardiff have still got to go there. And if, when the season ends, if they're around each other in the table, if it was a win at home and a draw away, that would be Fulham getting one over on Cardiff. So we'll see. Context is all, and we'll see what happens in the return game later in the season. But interesting game turning on that red card. Fulham, I didn't learn any more about them today other than to say I think they possibly look better with a midfield with Harrison Reed in and Arta and Kearney playmaking together. I think that might be the way forward for Fulham. And what they need to do, it's fairly clear. Teams are going to try and put a line of players in between their back four and their midfield three. Whenever Fulham got centre-halves close to halfway in possession, they look really, really dangerous, and they're going to take some teams to the cleaner. So my feedback on Fulham would be they still look a really good side. They could have won it, but for the red card. And I think Reed might push now ahead of Johansson in that team. Otherwise, they look very settled, and they look like they're going to have a strong season. Cardiff look a bit wibbly-wobbly. I know Fulham is a hard team to play against. Funnily enough, their two big moments in the game come from their not really very skillful centre-backs showing bits of skill. Flint assisting for the first goal, and then the red card was a nice bit of skill from Morrison. They could have won it. They're always going to be a threat, Cardiff, from the long throws and the set plays with Flint and Morrison in there. I don't know whether Fulham's the right team to judge them by, but it looked a bit disjointed. I guess the idea is going to be that Pack is going to be in the midfield there somewhere, but didn't all link up too well in terms of the whole team pressing together and forcing Fulham back. You'd think they'd want to play, maybe 15 yards even further up the pitch. Lot of talent in there. The three off the front. I don't know whether Tomlin's going to play a ton of games as we go through the season. And be interested in Cardiff fans' thoughts on Glatzel, because that's not working up front yet. Is that an improvement on Zahor? So I think Fulham are in a good spot, ready to move on after the international break. I think there's more questions for Cardiff. I think Warnock needs to tweak this a bit more before they get into their stride. There's really good players, and obviously the most proven manager you can get in the Championship waiting there at Cardiff. Let me know what you think in the comments. Bit topsy-turvy. I know I've sat here and said both managers will have thought they should won it, but both would be happy with the point. I hope you know what I'm trying to say with that. Let me know what you thought of the game in the comments, the red card, the goals, etc., etc. If you're a Fulham fan, do you agree? Happy just to get out with the point in the end, and you'll go on and push on, I think, now through the autumn time. Cardiff fan, do you agree? Not quite clicking there yet, and Warnock needs to find the formula over the next sort of month or so. Let me know what you think in the comments. Follow me on Twitter at Benjamin Bloom to find out which games I am. Loads of Championship stuff. 78 games I was at last season. I'll be, for my sins, watching my team Ipswich in League One tomorrow, so check out the review of that one. If you enjoyed this review, then hit the subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, because you'll get a Championship preview and review before every game week. I'll try and get to a game, if not more than a game, every game week. So well worth hitting the subscribe button and ringing the bell to follow if you're a Championship fan. We cover every team here, and I can't be accused of bias anymore because Ipswich have gone. So I'm completely neutral as this division comes, try and give balanced reviews. If you've watched more than one of my reviews and you've stayed until the end here and you've enjoyed them, they'll always be free on YouTube, but help a brother out. I've driven from Bedford to Cardiff today, spent loads of money on tickets and fuel, etc. So I've started a patreon.com/Benjamin Bloom. It's $5 a month, the equivalent of buying me a pint. Just helps out, help me come towards my dream of maybe being able to do this for a living as the YouTube subscribers numbers and the ad revenue grows, hopefully to a more viable level for me to give this a little bit more time, just a hobby. At the moment, that said, it'll always be free here on YouTube, so not an obligation at all. Thank you very much for watching. I've got a mammoth journey home and then Ipswich Shrewsbury tomorrow, so I will bid you farewell from a very fascinating game here in Wales. Cardiff 1, Fulham 1. Over and out.